You can't fake chemistry even if the marriage license says otherwise. That was the first thing Avery thought when she saw Eliza walk down the aisle. Not in a gown but in a power suit that screamed control, ambition, and danger. The wedding was supposed to be a formality, a deal signed to silence gossip, to keep their families' companies from falling apart under the weight of conservative shareholders and intrusive tabloids. Two women, both heirs to powerful business empires, agreeing to a marriage of convenience. Simple, clean, mutually beneficial. Or so they told themselves. But nothing about Eliza Moore was ever simple. Avery Collins, the pragmatic CEO of Collins Tech, had built her life on logic and precision. Every detail of her life was scheduled, calculated. Her relationships were short, her smiles rehearsed. She didn't have time for feelings, especially not the kind that made your stomach twist or your heart race. Eliza, on the other hand, was chaos in heels. Owner of Moore Enterprises, she was magnetic, witty, sharp, and absolutely impossible to read. She didn't play by the rules and she knew it. Her charm could disarm anyone in a room. And Avery hated that she wasn't immune. So when the priest declared them wife and wife, and their families applauded like this was a groundbreaking business merger, Avery forced a smile. Eliza leaned in, whispered against her ear. "Relax, darling. You look like you're about to fire your own wedding planner." And Avery almost laughed. They moved in together the next week, into a penthouse overlooking downtown Los Angeles. Two CEOs, two strong wills, one bed they both refused to use at first. The arrangement was strictly professional. They would attend events together, share public appearances, and keep up the illusion until the board meetings quieted down. But the illusion started to blur faster than either expected. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday night. Avery had stayed late at work, buried under reports, her brain fogged with exhaustion. When she returned home, she found Eliza asleep on the couch, laptop open, hair falling messily over her face. A movie played softly in the background, Pride and Prejudice. For a moment, Avery just stood there watching her. The woman who usually spoke in confident, razor-sharp tones now looked small, peaceful, human. Avery's chest tightened in a way she couldn't quite explain. She quietly placed a blanket over Eliza's shoulders and turned off the TV. But when she leaned down to take the laptop from her lap, Eliza stirred. Avery, she murmured, voice husky with sleep. "Go back to sleep," Avery whispered. "You'll hurt your neck like that." Eliza smiled drowsily, eyes half open. "You care." "I don't," Avery said automatically, but her voice betrayed her. Eliza chuckled softly before drifting back into dreams. That night, Avery barely slept. Their interactions began to shift. Breakfasts went from silence and separate tables to teasing remarks about who made worse coffee. Board meetings turned into inside jokes. Paparazzi photos that were once staged for pair suddenly looked a little too natural, her hand lingering at Eliza's waist, Eliza's head resting lightly on her shoulder. Terrified Avery. Because the one thing she couldn't control was how real it was beginning to feel. One evening, Eliza brought home a bottle of wine. "To us," she said, raising her glass. "To our very fake marriage that's somehow better than half the real ones I've seen." Avery smirked, clinking her glass. "You're delusional." "Maybe," Eliza said, eyes glinting. "But admit it, we make a pretty good team." The air between them thickened. Avery tried to look away, but Eliza stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Tell me something, Avery," she whispered. "When you look at me, do you ever forget that this is just a contract?" The question lingered like perfume in the room. Avery's heart stuttered. She could feel Eliza's breath on her skin, smell the faint scent of vanilla and danger. For one reckless moment she wanted to close the gap. But she didn't. She stepped back, voice clipped. "Don't cross that line, Eliza." Eliza smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "Too late," she said softly. "I already did." The next few weeks were a quiet war of glances and restraint. Avery avoided the penthouse whenever she could. Eliza filled the empty spaces with laughter and people, hosting dinners and charity galas, always shining, always untouchable. But every time Avery saw her across a crowded room, laughing with someone else, something in her chest burned. It came to a breaking point during a stormy night in February. Avery came home drenched after a brutal meeting. The elevator doors opened to the sound of Eliza's voice, soft, shaky and alone. "Eliza!" Avery called. No answer. She found her sitting by the window, glass of wine untouched, mascara smudged like bruises under her eyes. "I didn't think you'd come back," Eliza said quietly. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because you hate being near me." Avery frowned, stepping closer. "That's not true." Eliza laughed bitterly. "Then what is it? You can't stand to look at me, but you can't stop either. You treat me like a problem you're trying to solve." Avery swallowed. "Because I don't know what this is." Eliza turned to her, eyes glistening. "It's love, Avery. And you're terrified of it." The words hit her like thunder. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Avery whispered, "You think you're the only one who's scared?" Eliza looked up, startled. Avery's voice trembled as she continued, "You walk into my life, turn everything upside down, and expect me to just pretend I'm not falling apart inside? I don't know how to do this." Eliza's lips parted, but no words came. So Avery did the only thing she could. She closed the distance and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was years of repression, anger, and need colliding in one desperate moment. Eliza gasped, hands gripping Avery's shirt, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, breathless and wide-eyed, Eliza whispered, "You're late." Avery frowned. "Late? I've been waiting to do that since our wedding day." That night something shifted permanently. They stopped pretending. The fake marriage, the careful boundaries, all of it dissolved under the soft glow of city lights and whispered confessions. But love, real love, wasn't easy. And the world outside their penthouse wasn't ready for two women who dared to choose each other. The morning after their first kiss felt like waking up in a different world. Sunlight spilled across the penthouse floor, painting gold streaks over rumpled sheets, and two women tangled together like they'd always belonged that way. Eliza's hand rested lightly on Avery's chest, her breathing calm and steady, while Avery lay there wide awake, staring at the ceiling, terrified of how right everything felt. She'd never been good with emotions, especially the kind that made her want to stay instead of run. Yet here she was, tracing invisible circles on Eliza's back, memorizing the rhythm of her heartbeat like it was a secret melody meant only for her. When Eliza stirred, she smiled sleepily. "Morning, wife." Avery groaned. "Don't start." "Oh, come on," Eliza teased, propping herself up on one elbow. "You kissed me first. I think that earns me the right to be insufferable. Technically, you provoked me. Technically, you liked it." Avery turned her head, trying not to smile. Eliza leaned closer, her lips brushing Avery's ear. "Relax, I'm kidding." Mostly. It was playful, easy, disarming, the kind of morning Avery didn't realize she'd been craving her whole life. But love, as always, came with a price. A few days later, the illusion of peace began to crack. Their relationship had to remain a secret. The board members, the press, their families, none of them could know that their arranged marriage had turned real. The media still followed their every move, waiting for the first hint of scandal. At a shareholders' gala, Avery found herself standing beside Eliza, the two of them the picture of elegance and composure. Cameras flashed, champagne glasses clinked, polite laughter filled the air. To anyone watching, they were perfect. But beneath the surface, tension hummed. Eliza's hand brushed against Avery's under the table. Avery froze, darting her a warning glance. Eliza's eyes sparkled with mischief. "What?" she whispered. "We're married." "Not in public," Avery hissed. Eliza sighed softly, withdrawing her hand. "You make it sound like a crime." Avery's voice was cold. "In this room it is." The words hung heavy between them. For the rest of the night, Eliza smiled for the cameras, but her laughter never quite reached her eyes. Avery knew she'd hurt her, but she also knew she couldn't afford to let her guard down. Not here, not yet. Later that night, back at the penthouse, the silence was sharp. Eliza poured herself a glass of whiskey, the ice clinking against the glass like punctuation to her anger. "You're incredible, you know that," she said bitterly. "You can close billion-dollar deals with a single phone call, but you can't hold my damn hand at a dinner table." "Eliza, it's not that simple." "Oh, but it is," she cut in. "You're scared. Of them, of what they'll say, of how they'll look at us." Avery clenched her jaw. "This isn't about fear. It's about timing. If we move too fast, they'll pull our funding. You could lose more enterprises." "And what about you, Avery?" Eliza demanded. What would you lose if people knew you loved me? Avery opened her mouth but no words came. Eliza nodded slowly. That's what I thought. She set down the glass, the sound echoing like a crack in their fragile world. Good night, Mrs. Collins, she said, her voice breaking just slightly before she walked away. Avery stood there, staring at the empty hallway, realizing for the first time that success meant nothing if the person she wanted to share it with was walking out of the room. Days turned into weeks. They still lived together, still played the perfect couple for the cameras, but at home the air was colder. Eliza stopped waiting for Avery to come home. She worked late, traveled often, surrounded herself with friends Avery didn't know. And Avery, for all her control, was unraveling. She missed her. The smell of her perfume lingering in the hallway. The way she'd hum softly while typing. The teasing smile that could melt every wall Avery had ever built. She caught herself scrolling through old photos, staged shots from events, stolen moments in the kitchen, blurry selfies where Eliza was laughing and Avery was pretending not to. Each picture felt like a wound she didn't know how to close. One night, Avery found herself standing outside Eliza's office building. She'd told herself she was there to discuss a new joint project, a merger proposal, but deep down, she knew it was an excuse. Through the glass walls, she saw Eliza sitting at her desk, surrounded by papers, her hair tied up messily. She looked tired. Beautiful but tired. And she wasn't alone. A man, tall, charming, dressed too well to be casual, was leaning over her desk, laughing at something she said. Eliza smiled back. It shouldn't have hurt. They weren't fighting. They weren't even talking. But seeing someone else make her smile like that made Avery's stomach twist. Before she could stop herself, she entered. The man straightened, surprised. Eliza, Avery said coolly. I didn't realize you had company. Eliza blinked, caught off guard. Avery, this is Nathan Cole, our new PR consultant. Nathan extended a hand. Mrs. Collins. Pleasure. Avery ignored it. Of course. Late hours for PR strategy, I see. Eliza frowned. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same. Nathan glanced between them, sensing the tension. I'll give you two a moment. He left quickly. As soon as the door closed, Eliza sighed. Really? You're jealous now. I'm not jealous. Then why did you look like you wanted to fire him on sight? Avery hesitated. Because I don't trust him. Or because you don't trust me? Eliza countered. Avery stared at her, searching for an answer she didn't have. Eliza's expression softened slightly. Avery, you can't keep loving me in the shadows. It's suffocating. Do you think I don't want to shout it to the world? Avery's voice cracked. I wake up every morning and my first thought is you. But I built everything I have by being careful. If we go public now, they'll use it against us. Eliza shook her head. You're still thinking like a CEO. I need you to think like my wife. Avery's eyes filled with frustration. And what if I can't be both? For a moment, Eliza just looked at her and then she whispered. Then maybe you shouldn't be either. Felt like a slap. Before Avery could reply, Eliza walked past her, out of the office, and didn't look back. The next morning, the tabloids had a new headline. Rumors swirl. The power couple's Cold War? Photos of Avery and Eliza at recent events standing apart. Forced smiles, no hand-holding filled every page. The board called an emergency meeting. Public image was crumbling. Investors were panicking. Avery, one of the older directors, said, we agreed this marriage would stabilize both brands. If there's trouble, it affects all of us. There is no trouble, Avery said firmly. The man raised an eyebrow. Then fix whatever personal issues you're having before they become professional. For the first time, Avery felt trapped between the world she'd built and the person she loved. That night, she returned to the penthouse and it felt emptier than ever. Eliza's things were still there, but she wasn't. A note lay on the kitchen counter. I need space, Avery. I can't keep pretending this is enough. Don't look for me. Avery stood frozen, the paper trembling in her hands. The city lights outside blurred as tears filled her eyes. The same woman who once believed she couldn't cry now couldn't stop. Eliza spent the next few weeks in New York, staying at a friend's apartment. She threw herself into work, launching a new campaign for women-led startups, doing interviews that danced around her personal life. But every time she looked at her phone, She saw Avery's unread messages. Please call me. I miss you. Come home. She wanted to. God, she wanted to. But something inside her whispered that love shouldn't hurt this much. That she deserved to be loved in daylight, not in the shadows of corporate politics. Meanwhile, Avery was losing her grip. She attended meetings mechanically, signed documents she couldn't remember reading, and stared at the empty chair beside her during press events. The penthouse, once filled with laughter and music, was now silent. Her assistant, Claire, found her one evening sitting on the balcony, staring at the skyline. You should call her, Claire said gently. She asked me not to. Claire shrugged. Then write. At least tell her what you can't say. That night, Avery opened her laptop and began to type. Eliza, I used to think love was a distraction, something that made people weak. Then you happened. You made me realize that love isn't weakness. It's the courage to be seen, even when the world's watching. If you never come back, I'll understand. But if you do, I promise no more pretending. No more hiding. I want to be the kind of woman who stands beside you, not behind contracts and fear. Yours always, Avery. She didn't send it. She printed it, sealed it in an envelope, and took the first flight to New York. When she found Eliza, it was raining. Typical. Avery thought bitterly because the universe loved dramatic timing. Eliza was leaving her office, umbrella in hand, when Avery stepped out of a cab and called her name. Eliza! Eliza turned, shock flashing across her face. Avery? What are you doing here? I needed to see you. In the middle of a storm? I've weathered worse, Avery said softly, holding out the letter. Please. Eliza hesitated, then took it. She didn't read it right away, just stood there. Raindrops clinging to her lashes, heart pounding. Avery swallowed hard. I was wrong. About everything. About hiding, about control. You were right, love shouldn't have to apologize for existing. Eliza's voice trembled. And what about the company? The board? The world? To hell with them, Avery said. They can build another empire. I can't build another you. For a long moment neither spoke. The rain fell harder, soaking them both. Then Eliza smiled, small, real, breaking like sunlight through clouds. You're late again, she whispered. Avery blinked. What? Eliza stepped closer, cupping her face. I've been waiting to hear you say that since the night you kissed me. And when she leaned in, their lips met again, not desperate this time, but certain. The city roared around them, but for once they didn't care. The rain didn't stop that night, but neither did they. Avery and Eliza stood there for what felt like forever, soaked, shivering, laughing like two women who had finally stopped running. Every drop of water that hit their skin felt like a baptism, washing away the fear, the lies, the pretense. When they finally went inside, Eliza wrapped Avery in a towel and whispered, You're insane. Avery smiled. You married me. What does that make you? Eliza laughed softly, and it was the sweetest sound Avery had heard in weeks. They stayed up all night talking. Not about business or strategies or the future, but about them. About the nights they'd missed each other, the stupid fights, the words they hadn't said. At dawn, Avery reached for her hand. I want to go home. But only if home still means you. Eliza squeezed her fingers. Then let's rebuild it. Back in Los Angeles, they didn't hide anymore. The next board meeting was brutal. Cameras waited outside, reporters shouted questions, and investors whispered rumors like wildfire. Avery entered hand in hand with Eliza. The silence was deafening. One director, pale and furious, leaned forward. Mrs. Collins, Mrs. Moore, do you understand what this will do to our public image? Yes, Avery said calmly. It'll make it honest. Gasps rippled across the room. Eliza straightened her shoulders. We built these companies on integrity. That means standing by who we are, not just when it's easy. Someone muttered. You're risking everything. Avery looked at Eliza, then back at the board. No. I'm choosing everything that matters. There was no applause, no celebration, just a quiet electric stillness. But Avery knew they had just done something irreversible, something right. The headlines the next day were merciless. Power couple defies industry norms. Corporate queens or career suicide? The most controversial love story in business. But for every cruel headline, there were hundreds of messages from women around the world, entrepreneurs, students, mothers thanking them for their courage. Eliza read one aloud over breakfast. I'm proud of you. I showed my daughter your photo and told her love is never something to hide. Avery smiled faintly, pouring her coffee. That's better PR than any campaign we've ever launched. Eliza grinned. I told you love was good for business. They laughed, but this time it wasn't nervous or forced. It was real. Months passed. Their relationship wasn't perfect, it was messy and human. They fought about who left files on the counter, about canceled dinners and mixed-up schedules. But they also danced barefoot in the kitchen, argued over movie choices, and fell asleep tangled together after long days. The penthouse was alive again, filled with music, laughter, and the smell of Eliza's terrible attempts at cooking. One evening, as they watched the sunset over the city, Eliza turned to Avery and said, Do you ever think about how it started? Avery chuckled. An arranged marriage to save our companies. Romantic, really. And now? Avery leaned closer. Now it's the only real thing I've ever had. Eliza smiled. You've gotten good at this love thing. I had a good teacher. They kissed softly, the world outside glowing gold. Weeks later, they attended a charity gala, their first major public event since going public with their relationship. The press swarmed them as they entered, cameras flashing like lightning. Mrs. Collins. Mrs. Moore. Are you officially together? Eliza squeezed Avery's hand and smiled directly into the cameras. We've been official since the day we said, I do. The world just caught up. Laughter erupted among the reporters. The photo of that moment, two powerful women, holding hands, unapologetically in love, went viral overnight. But the best part wasn't the coverage. It was afterward, when the gala ended and they stood alone in the ballroom, music fading, lights dim. Eliza looked at Avery. Do you ever think we'd make it here? Avery shook her head. I thought we'd destroy each other. Eliza smirked. We still might. Avery laughed, pulling her closer. As long as we do it together. Months turned into a year. They built a new joint venture, Collins and Moore Foundation, supporting young women in business. Their companies thrived not despite their love but because of it. People saw in them something rare. Power with purpose, ambition with heart. And in quiet moments when the world wasn't watching, they found peace. On their first wedding anniversary, the real one, the one that mattered, Eliza surprised Avery with a small ceremony on the rooftop. Just them, a few friends, and the soft glow of fairy lights. As they exchanged vows again, Avery's voice trembled. I used to think love made people weak. But you proved it's what makes us brave. You taught me that strength isn't silence, it's standing beside someone when the world tells you not to. Eliza's eyes shimmered. And you taught me that love isn't about being rescued. It's about being seen even when you're messy, scared, imperfect. You saw me, Avery. That's all I ever wanted. They kissed under the stars, the city lights shimmering like witnesses to something sacred. Later that night, they danced barefoot on the rooftop, soft jazz playing from Eliza's phone. Avery rested her chin on Eliza's shoulder, whispering, Do you realize we turned a fake marriage into a real love story? Eliza smiled. The best deals are the ones no one expects. Avery chuckled. You still think in business terms. And you still fall for it, Eliza teased. The wind carried their laughter across the skyline, two women who had faced the world, defied it, and won not through power or pride, but through love. As the music faded, Eliza pulled Avery closer and whispered, Home isn't a place, you know. Avery looked at her. Then what is it? It's this. You and me. And for the first time, Avery believed it completely. Years later, people still talked about them, not as a scandal but as a legacy. Two women who refused to hide. Two leaders who proved that love and strength could coexist. But for Avery and Eliza, it was simpler than that. Every morning, they woke up beside each other. Every night, they found their way back home to laughter, to touch, to something real. Their story had started as a contract. But it ended as a promise. A promise that love, when it's honest, fearless, and free, is always worth the risk. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.